All right, we're back with another episode of the Fuel or Crutch podcast. Let's talk about it. This is season 5, episode 2. I've got special guests with me. Like I said, I've told y'all this season I'm bringing friends. So we'll kick off this intro and we'll dive right into it. All right. So first of all, thank you guys for tuning in. And I want to start off by saying thank you to our guests, the Outlays, Dr. Christina Outlay and Terrell Outlay, with the very extra special guest sitting in the passenger seat, Marie Outlay. And so I'm going to let you guys go ahead and do your own introduction while we get going.
I'm Christina Outlay. I am a Sun Prairie resident and been here in the Wisconsin area since 2012. I'm currently the executive director at MADAM in Madison, where we work with girls and youth of color, and we provide them with skills, experiences, and connections to pursue careers in STEM. And I'm also an associate professor of IT at UW Whitewater, where I've been since 2011. I've been with MADAM since 2022. That's a short intro. Terrell and I are parents of 4 kids, quote unquote kids, ranging from age 5 to age 31.
That 5 won't throw you off.
Most of the time it's at 31. And then the 5.
Terrell, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Terrell Outlay. I'm a realtor in the Madison area and Illinois. I always say I'm an investor as well, but I am landlord, things like that. So, yeah, help buyers and sellers, sell property. People inquire about, wanting to buy or sell. Always down to talk to them, and even if they're not working with me at all, I would like for a lot more folks to work with me. But I'm always down to help guide somebody through that process.
And that's always appreciated. Marie, since you sit in shotgun, go ahead and do an introduction.
I'm Marie. I'm the daughter of Christina, one of the daughters of Christina and Terrell. I'm a Sun Prairie West graduate. Studying exercise science and psychology and playing basketball. And I'm a junior.
All right. Congratulations on all that as well. So yeah, let's go back. Terrell, do you remember what year it was that I met you? Marie had to be in, I think, 4th grade.
Yeah, it was like 2014.
Yeah,
About 2014.
I think me and Terrell became friends out of sympathy. He felt bad for me. I was coaching the younger girls that would have included Kiera Jones and I had Tia Justice, and then Ari and Alana played along with them. But it was very challenging. It was the first time coaching girls, and as talented as those girls were, they all had attitudes too.
Right.
That's great.
It was like 3rd grade at the time.
Yep.
Yep.
So yeah. So with this episode, I really wanted to bring you guys on because I think you guys have done an amazing job with raising your children and in the process of raising another little one. But this season, I really wanted to talk about kind of like the parental buy-in to support the kids as they navigate the educational world in space that ain't always friendly to them, and in our area don't always look like them. And so I just wanted to, maybe start with the background about your guys' own educational journey. I know you guys aren't from here, but if you want to just to speak on the background of where you come from and the importance of education, or when it clicked for you.
Okay. Well, I'm born and raised in Chicago, in the inner city. I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and I've always been kind of a teacher's pet and enjoyed school. And I was raised by my mom, a single mother, and my grandmother pretty much, but they also were, my grandmother actually dropped out of school when she was in third grade. And it was a time when the oldest kids had to stay home and help with all of the rest of the kids in the family. My mom started college. She didn't finish college, but was always very interested and engaged in school. And so that carried over, I think, to support me. I actually had 2 promotions while I was in school. So I finished middle school a year early. Actually, in elementary school, transferred from 3rd to 4th grade in the middle of the year. And then when I was in high school, I graduated a year early from high school. So I went to Whitney Young High School in Chicago. I also went to Whitney Young Academic Center for 7th and 8th grade. I graduated from high school when I was 16. I went to college, switched a couple times, but ultimately graduated from DePaul University. Also went back to DePaul University for my master's degree, and eventually got my PhD from University of Illinois at Chicago. So I've got a lot of years of going to school and still consider that a continuous learning journey for me now as well.
All right. That is a journey. I didn't know you had been elevated. So you graduated high school at 16 and then went to college and staying in the dorms. How was that as a underage person being on a college campus?
Yeah, it was a lot. Fast life. I actually started school. I was supposed to go to Bradley University, but ended up not going to Bradley. So I didn't go away the very first year. I commuted back and forth to school. And part of my second year was when I stayed on campus at that time at Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago. So it was a lot. It was a lot of freedom, a lot of very fast freedom, and being pretty young having that freedom. And what I saw was my grades plummet right away due to a lot of hanging out and partying and not studying enough. So I only stayed in the dorms for 1 semester, and then I moved back home. Because it was necessary. And then I had my oldest daughter at 18, so that's our 31-year-old. And so that made a difference as well. When I did go back to school at DePaul University, then I stayed off campus in an apartment and used some of my student loan money to actually pay for our living expenses. So I was 18 and going into my 3rd year of college with a baby at that point.
But that gives you a different why, a whole different reason behind the reason that you in school and focus.
It does. I think I'd say I'm surrounded now and then by a lot of people who also encourage education and moving forward and not becoming stagnant. And so I had several role models then. My mom was always very committed, even when I went to school, eventually coming to meet me. She'd come meet me and sit in the hall and hold, Christian is our oldest daughter, hold Christian while I took a placement test or something like that. So I had that kind of support with continuing on. And when I went back to DePaul as well, I even had older women that I worked with coming in telling me, you need to go back to school right away. is I went to work for a year with the intention of going back, and have people say, you need to go now. And so just having those types of influences along the way, I think is also what helped me to keep going.
All right. Terrell, it's on you, sir.
All right. I started out in St. Louis, transferred in my freshman year to Chicago. Went to CVS, Chicago Vocational High School in Chicago. Didn't go to college. I went to trade school after that. I have taken some college courses and things like that, but my father was pushing trade school back then, and I jumped into the painters union and drywall finishing. So I did that for like 5 years after graduating. And once I started making money doing it, it was like, yeah, I'll stick with this. And then it eventually got into some real estate and things like that. And I remember when I decided to just go straight into real estate, I was telling Christina, but when I was in Iraq through the military, like, man,
Hold on, you just bypassed the whole thing. You was in the military. You gotta speak on that too.
Oh, you didn't know? Yeah, okay. So yeah, I went to trade school, got my journeyman license and things like that. So I was working in that field in 1999, actually the year that me and Christina met. I think we met each other January, and I started talking a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to basic training next month. Right? So yeah, about 30 days from now, I'll be out of here. And I think we went on our first date in that time, and yeah.
There's more to that story, but we'll say that for another conversation.
Right.
So you did the journeyman, and then how did you get involved in real estate?
So I always wanted to own property and things like that, and at first me and a partner of mine, we bought a house, and somebody left a person that we knew their house, and they were like, we don't know what to do with this, and we were dabbling, and we're like, okay, we can if you want to sell it for like 40 or 50,000, then we could take it off your hands. And again, I was in the construction field, so I was over there working after I got off work. We were doing a quick flip. So I think we sold that property in like 3 or 4 months. I think we sold it for like we sold it for 110,000. And that's when I was like, like imagine I did this 2 or 3 times a year or something like that. And yeah, so that's how that started. And then once I was in Iraq through the military, I was just like, I don't think I want to go back to the construction job. I think I want to just dive directly into real estate as far as being a realtor and an investor at the same time, and having the construction background as well. We can do our own rehabs. We can help other people do rehabs and things like that, and kind of makes money on all these different fronts, right? So, and bring it all together.
All right.
So that's how that started.
So as y'all have joined forces, were there like any planned conversations around how you guys were going to raise children, how you were going to make sure education was a priority, or was it kind of like stuff that just started happening and it just started to make sense?
So I think we got lucky with smart ass kids right out the gate. Christian was a WES kid. So as far as schools, she's going to get her grades, things like that. Marie's been the same way as well. Pretty easy. There's a few little spots where you had to kind of check the situation and then she got back on track, things like that.
So Marie, since you sitting there, how hard was those checkings?
honestly don't remember any check-ins, but
Remember that time in fourth grade I had to come up to the school
y'all hear that?
and
Fourth grade.
it only had
That was my
to
next
happen once.
question. It was going to be
Fourth and
all
fifth
right,
grade.
because I was going to ask, like, at what point did it happen? Was it middle school, high school, elementary? So you got her together in fourth grade. All right.
Yeah, it was a little group that was starting to get a little out of hand, and Marie was one of the ringleaders on that for a little bit, and then we checked it. You don't remember I came up to Creekside and pulled you out of class? Oh, okay. He blocked that out. And that's when the teachers are like, right.
Yeah.
That's when the teachers are like, I didn't mean for you to come up here. I'm like, well, you sent us an email or leave me a voicemail. We're coming up to the school. Like, if you don't mean for us to come up to the school, don't send it. If it ain't that serious, don't send it because we'll be there in 5 minutes.
So now pivoting with that kind of response to a teacher's email, text, whatever it was, do you see a change in how they interact with you or how they play or don't play with your kids?
So, Jamal, that's been different for us through the years because our kids are so spread apart, and our ages and experience levels have varied from one kid to the next. And so has our ability to be really actively engaged during the school day. So Christian, for instance, is the oldest. We were much younger. We were both working full-time jobs. Sometimes I was working full-time and in school as well. And we were less able to do that. Christian didn't need it very much, frankly, either. She was very, very driven. And I think that what we pushed a lot with Christian was staying on top of her grades and leveraging the friends and other resources that she had available to her. She was stressed out over that, but definitely there was a lot of me pushing her educationally and Terrell pushing her to be accountable to some extent. Marie was different. We were older with Marie. There's a 10 or 11 year gap between Marie and Christian. And what we also had was a more flexible schedule. Terrell's a realtor at this point, so he has more control over the schedule. They're driving them back to school right now, in case you wonder what he's doing. We can hear y'all.
Listen, I'm a huge fan of the active fathers. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Terrell was a realtor at this point, and he had more control over his schedule. And I was, I'm trying to think what I was doing. I was PhD, and I was in my last year of working full-time in corporate. So I had more control over my schedule as well. We were here, and I was a professor with control. So all of that to lead to having the ability during the day on most days to respond very quickly if something happened during the school day. It definitely made a huge difference for us to be able to address things right away, for us to be more present in the classroom, like for reading days. And Terrell was I don't know if they called them watchdogs then with the parents, the dads that came and helped at the school, but Terrell, would do that. We got to know the teachers very well, and definitely they knew that if they told us something that we would be engaged and ready to handle it on the spot. I think that helped a lot with us. It also helped with our kids. We had Marie first, but then we also had our foster son, Micah, at Creekside as well. So it helped both of them to know that parents and teachers were talking, right? So that does make a big difference.
Oh yeah, listen, I was a full fan and still am of pop-ups. Both of my kids found it irritating, but thankful later on for the level of accountability that I made sure that they had, knowing that I'd pop up. I definitely see some of the similarities in that. I don't know how I feel about watchdogs, but whatever y'all had, it worked out, I'm sure.
They call it watchdog now. I think, it might have been called that as well.
I think it was.
back then too. Yeah.
So when it came down to, it sounds like you guys had kids that were already ready to do the school aspect. Did you guys have any additional resources or like individuals that kind of fed into them as well? I don't know if maybe if it was a grandmother or aunt or just somebody that they confided in or mentorship or whatever the case was. Were there anything strategically that y'all did to kind of help to get certain messages across that sometimes fall on deaf ears from parents?
Go ahead, Christina.
So we definitely have lots of family, and we have friends who would help. We have some friends who are educators or specialized in areas that would be available to help. And Marie has had that as well with some of our friends who could help her with things. But I think we also just had a parent network too, since they were, at least Marie was in sports. For instance, the other sports parents and some of our other friends were available to fill in and support, or to see them at school doing something, or to be available for them if it was something they didn't want us to know. And we did that with some of our friends' kids too, still do, actually. Now, if I were to shift to Micah, Michael is a little bit different because Micah was older when he joined our family, and Micah's background and childhood trauma, attitude towards school, and all of those things were very, very, very different. And we had some resources that were provided through DHS, for instance, and through therapists, and some worked and some didn't. And that is still an ongoing challenge. But that was our first time really having a child that was not engaged, and that we had to constantly try to find different resources and strategies for. Definitely was out of our comfort zone there.
Well, can you talk about some of the strategies or some of the struggles? Just because I know that we've got a bunch of parents that are probably going to watch this that will be trying to figure out how they can engage or provide certain structures for their students, so that way they can excel and take off in education.
So my screen froze a little bit, but I think you're asking for suggestions about
Yes.
resources. Okay.
And strategies.
And strategies. Okay, so I'll start with the strategy. And every parent doesn't have the flexibility that Terrell and I had to be there during school hours sometimes, but absolutely having to be a proactive advocate for your child, even an extremely assertive, to the point of perceived aggression, even aggressive, audacious advocate for your child. That's necessary. And the reason I say that is because your child may need some additional support at the school. Or in the case of our child, for instance, our son needed a 504 plan and qualified for it to provide special accommodations for him during the school day. And we really had to push hard for that. And even looking back at his history before he joined our family, there had been some attempts for, prior families to get that for him, and they were denied every time. So it took a lot of work to push that, and a lot of research on our part to be knowledgeable enough to finally make it happen. Then once we got it, we had to remind the schools each year. When he went from elementary school to middle school, we had to do it all over again. Same when he got into high school, we had to do it all over again. We got to where we would send a note to his teachers as soon as we knew who they would be. Let them know he has 504 plan. This is how this might show up in the classroom. And we would still get, here and there, some notice of him behaving a certain way or him not paying attention to something. And, we'd say, we emailed you about that. So did you check that? Why are you just now telling us at parent teacher night, and those types of things. So it took ongoing, really proactive assertiveness. It is still an ongoing challenge, quite honestly, though, with Micah for other reasons. but we got them through middle school and high school in that way. And then we also had a friends and family network again that would chime in. Um, at one point, I can't mention this other one's name because they were a foster child. Um, we ultimately adopted Michael, so he's a part
Okay.
of our family. But this other one was another foster child, and they went to
Hi,
another
Dad.
elementary school. This is the 5 year.
Sorry.
We'll get to her. They went to an elementary school in Sun Prairie, and when they would misbehave at school, we wouldn't know about it unless we asked. And we got to the point where we would say, we need to know when they're not listening or not behaving so that we can address it. And we had to push the school to do that. We found out that they were doing all kind of stuff at school, Jamal, and we had no idea. We thought they were doing great. And then finally I think it was their teacher. I'm trying to be really careful to not say gender or name or nothing, but we built a relationship with their teacher, and their
Uh-huh.
teacher was the one who finally started to tell us more, so that we could be more engaged. But the same thing as with Marie and Micah, we really had to build up the relationships and be proactive and involved. Now, as for resources, it really was kind of a complicated process to get state, city, county, support. Um, Getting the 504 plan eventually, all of that was really challenging to go through. And Terrell, I'm trying to remember how we even found out what we needed to do. It probably was me asking. We know a lot of people, right? Like that work for the system. Some
Mhm.
people who are educators, some who are psychologists. You have people like Martha Stacker and people on her team who are really active and committed to helping.
Yeah, I think Kevin helped us out with that because I don't think Micah had a 504 plan when he first came to us. You're like, huh? He's got all of
Can
this
you,
and he doesn't have that.
right? Can you tell them what Kevin you're talking about?
Kevin Doss, shout out Kevin Doss. No,
Oh, Kevin Doss. Yeah.
at Anesis.
Yes, sir.
Probably on here.
I don't know, but helped us with resources and even telling us about additional resources, to point us to therapy, to point us to psychiatrists, to point us to other kinds of support that you can get as you go through the system. Even if you're adopted in with a family, there's still other ongoing resources that you can get. And I'll be honest, so Micah moved with family for a while, and then with him coming back, now we kind of lost track of what those resources are, and not having someone here to guide us through and tell us what we can do has made it much harder for us to figure out where we can go and what help we can get. So what I would do is say, start with somebody you know. I think many of us know somebody who works for DPI or DHS or a school, or a church or a Anesis, and start with them and then have them help you navigate the system. But you have to know your own stuff when you go in and ask for what you want. I like to assume positive intentions and not automatically, even when I think it sometimes, not automatically think that the school is just putting up roadblocks, right? Instead of helping when they know there are other resources available.
I think that might be the hardest thing to adjust to is, when you really have to go in and advocate and you feel like you're met with pushback when it's like, hey, at the end of the day, we're here to support a child, to help them to navigate the world. I ran into those hurdles multiple times. I've also been somebody to share my knowledge. If somebody comes to me as a former special ed teacher, I've had parents ask me questions just so they can navigate, because if you're not in that educational world, the language that they're speaking is like a foreign language. And so make sure that, folks are asking questions. I love the way that you said, being proactive in advocacy. and not reactive, because sometimes being reactive is too late. And know your kids' teachers. There's too many times that not everybody knows the teachers. You get through halfway through the semester and not know who your kids' teachers are. If you got the opportunity, you got a day off. I understand we get tired as parents. Take an hour to go up to that school. Make sure that they know your face. Because I promise you, it's as terrible as it sounds, as somebody that worked in K-12, they will play in your face until they know that you're not playing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we also know it in life across the board is who you know, right? When people know you and they like you, they do things differently for you, or they'll do more for you, or they have just more context in general when they're supporting your child. And being there, being around, going to the mixers. She just started kindergarten, and I'm not saying her school, but we have been there already like 4 times. We've been there for every event. Jamal, I have to, stress that not every parent can do that. If a parent is working full time or working 2 full-time jobs or doing a lot of stuff, and maybe it's one parent trying to do it all, it's very hard to do this. But in that case, what I suggest is if you can partner up with some other family members or role models or friends so you can be there for each other, then that's a way you could do it as well. So maybe you can't get there, but there's someone else that they know is gonna be there in your place.
That was one layer that I added to my mentoring program for this year, was a release of information. So that way I can go in and advocate. I can go in and check in on those kids that I'm working with, and the parents have signed off on it to make sure that I'm able to go into the schools to check in, because sometimes they can't. So again, speak up, talk to your friends, talk to the parents of your friends' kids, because there's going to be ways that support can be helped and had, because you never know who knows who, because we've all maybe been in the same room with principals or special ed teachers or professors, and they know somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah, there are some other ways, thanks to technology, that you can stay connected. Most of them have Brightwheel or Seesaw or some other kind of app that the teachers are using to communicate or send pictures and send and receive messages, and you can connect to those apps and stay in touch with the teacher in that way. That helps too when you can't be there in person. You can build a relationship with them virtually in that way.
So now I've got a question, because you've had the 31-year-old, you got the 5-year-old. What things have you learned from the 31 years of parenting that you guys are now kind of doing for the 5-year-old?
Yeah, everything.
That may have been different from what you did before. Terrell, you said everything.
That's how we know how to take a breath and breathe before we react. And Zora she's a challenge at times, big time. She might be the biggest challenge, as far as attitude. At 5, but yeah, breathe and then come back to the situation.
Okay.
Yeah, of the girls, so they've gotten progressively saucier. I don't know that Christian ever got in trouble in school. That's the oldest. Marie, kindergarten or 1st grade, we were already getting little notes, but it was mostly from talking and
socializing,
that type of thing. Yep. We actually haven't gotten notes and stuff like that for Zora. Instead, what we've gotten is just challenges at home. This is the first one that was not excited to go to school, and so we had to convince and find fun ways, to ease the transition or get her excited about reading, get her excited about math. This is new for us across all of them. And so we're working on that. Teach yourself a lot with it.
So we've got a question. We got Drew Ellis. Shout out to Drew for pulling up. He says, "How do you guys handle a teenager wanting to see a therapist?"
Well, we find those resources and make that appointment. Especially like now that we know, well, we found out about Anesis and the programs that they have. They're pretty supportive, pretty easy to contact. I think we started off with another company when we first started, and we found Anesis, and they got a bunch of, support people that look like our kids, because everybody else was, white male. So once we found that definitely helped.
Yeah, I'd say kudos. Everything Terrell just said. We also, we had a psychiatrist for a while, same Black male psychiatrist, and I think very similar to kind of our mindset and old school parenting, auntie, uncle, grandma, granddad type of mindset, connected in a different way. But in short, though, for the teen who wants to see a therapist, I would say kudos. Bravo to them for recognizing that a therapist might help with whatever it is that they're going through, and try to get them in there ASAP. The availability, the waiting period is so long, and there are so many young people who have been struggling because of that waiting period. And and usually you have to convince people to see a therapist. So if you have a teen who wants to see one, try to provide that access ASAP. And if Maria is still in the car, Maria is actually minoring in psychology, and one thing she feels passionately about is supporting athletes' mental health, and she doesn't feel like there's enough support for that. So Marie could probably chime in on what she would suggest as a young person.
Marie gone.
Yeah, she gone. They dropped off. I'm headed back now.
All right, well, she slid out the car, and I just enjoyed my phone because I was going to send a text. What would you say, Marie?
I know she's glad that she's gone, because she's like, I'm be put on the spot.
I would suggest providing access to a therapist for your teen, or for a teen that wants to see a therapist.
I would say that I think us in this time frame, or this generation, have done a good job of kind of dispelling that myth that Black people don't go to therapy. I think that we've kind of changed that narrative. I have a therapist, and I will say that it has done wonders for me. For me, it's more of like scheduled maintenance for a car, like an oil change to keep going as a well-oiled machine. My children have been seeing a therapist, but I'd also say just a kid or a teen that wants a therapist or wants to see one, they're telling you that they want to talk. They know that there's something internally that they want to process or talk out. So I would never frown upon it. Open up that door for them. If it works for them, great. If it doesn't, we find something else that can help and support them.
Right.
Drew said,
I know our oldest daughter, Christian, would advocate for that too. She would strongly suggest having access to a therapist.
So yes. Hey, again, anybody that's watching, if you have questions, feel free to ask. I think that I speak for myself as far as being an open book to share, because I don't want anybody to kind of go through what I've gone through as a parent and as an adult as well. And we are literally here to kind of speak to our experiences and be able to share some strategies and things that we've done that have come out on the successful side of things. Drew got a question.
I was actually.
Damn, won't you just dial in, Drew?
He said, "So how do I get her to
people ask for help?" Go ahead. I was actually just about to go into that, especially if you start thinking about a therapist or a school counselor or. I just paused because my connection blipped. So I wanted to make sure if you start thinking about a therapist or a school counselor, I know for me, my big struggle was, why can't they talk to me? Why can't they answer my question? We right here, talk to me, talk to Terrell, talk to whoever. But if that's not going to work and there is somebody that they will talk to, then you just got to kind of suck that up and provide that resource for them. But how you can still be involved is by building a relationship with that therapist. Our son's last therapist was really good at connecting with him. And so when something happened at home or something was going on, we would talk to him and let him know this is happening at home. We don't know what it is. He won't tell us, or whatever it is that you discuss with him, he's not doing it. And so in that way, we make sure we got our concern to him. He would connect with him. He would get all of the info that we couldn't get at all. We'd get a blank stare, He would get all of the info, and he already knew our positions or concerns, and using whatever his tricks were, or just the fact that he wasn't us, then he could get that information and then he would share it with us. I have to say, to this day, we continue to struggle with the right way to support our son, and tough love, and putting them out and sending them to family, and all these different things, have mixed results. So we're still figuring it out. But I can look back and say, I think we were making the most progress when we had a therapist, a psychiatrist, close relationship with the school, and a lot of state support that we got through. It was Kevin, and we also had a caseworker who were helping us with that stuff. And when we had all those resources and used all of them, we were definitely making the most progress. Drew, if she won't talk to you, find her that person that she does want to talk to, and then you just build that really good relationship with that therapist. I know you want them to talk to you, but if they don't want to, the main thing is to have somebody who is there for them in the meanwhile.
So my offer of advice or suggestion is to listen. Instead of always trying to solve it, because I think that's just us, our nature is to try and fix and solve the problem. And it might not be something that we can do. And it might just be at a point where she just wants to vent. And shout out to Brianna, my fiance, with her words. She says, sometimes your kids need to hear from someone else. Don't take it personal when your kids don't want to talk to you. We also don't always have the delivery they may need. And this is coming from somebody who's now back to school to become a therapist. So, and again, don't take it personal. And I think that's the other part. We do take those things personal. I know I took it personal when my oldest didn't want to talk to me, and she actually told my mom that I was no longer her hero. That one hurt, but it made me change my delivery or my receiving of information, and I had to listen more instead of trying to solve everything. And then we had a long conversation where I wasn't more or less trying to solve something, and everything changed. And I don't know if I'm back to her hero, but our relationship has improved drastically again.
And sometimes it helps for them to have forums with other teams too. So for instance, Pranisha Clifton runs Seeing is Believing, and she has lots of programs that are geared towards supporting young people, teaching them strategies for maintaining their mental health or relieving stress and stuff like that. And I think being in a forum with other young people as well sometimes helps to realize it's not just you as a team. Or maybe you get a network, just another way to deal with those things. But definitely hearing from someone else, and it's hard as a parent to not be that person that they want to go to, but across the board, even when they're little, they often behave or react differently to other people. And so just build that village.
Yeah, definitely build the village. I know the reason that I first started, the first mentoring group I ever started, that did come with Ari's age group. It was more so of the mindset that I'm not going to be their biggest influence when they get older. When they become teens, their peers become their biggest influence. And so my thought process was creating a network of peer mentorship for them in a positive way. That might, and I heard it. It was like, it was funny that I started them with third and fourth grade, but I heard it when they got to high school, and one of her friends was like, why you don't listen to your dad? Hear it from me, but when it came from one of her peers, some of the stuff that I said made sense, and they were now preaching what I was saying to her without me having to say it anymore.
Yeah.
All right, Drew said, last question. Do you believe in taking medication for mental health?
Yes. And that's so that's we keep going back to Micah, right? Yes, that it definitely helped. But at some point he decided that he wasn't taking it no more, right? Like, he's done. He don't need it. But we saw all these different changes when he was, focus and things like that, staying on task and all of that. And he just didn't want to. He just didn't want to do it at all. So I think to this day he's not taking any medication and things like that. But honestly, he's been back and he's been on task for once. So we'll see how long it lasts. So trying to push him, to be productive and things like that. And so far, so good. This is very recent, by the way, but we'll see how long. Hopefully, it continues to move forward. Hopefully, we've made a breakthrough as far as it's time to be productive in life and do the things you need to do for yourself. And that's something that Kevin and the therapist and things like that always said, even when he was like 16, 17. At this point, you guys have done everything that you're supposed to do. At this point, it's got to be him to make that decision that I gotta make these changes and I gotta drive the train.
My answer is
Yeah.
my answer is yes and no. Yes and no. Because sometimes doctors rush to medicate before trying to get to the root of the issue, and maybe there's something else that can help. But that said, where medication will clearly help, then I am 100% for it, even if it's just to use the medication to get things under control and then gradually try to wean off of it. Problem with this is we're always having to fight against the system and balance getting the help we need with giving your medical records or whatever that ammunition to label you for the rest of your life. And once it's on your medical record, for instance, that you have depression or something like that, it might even be situational what's causing you to be down. That goes onto your record and follows you forever. So then you may, you go to the doctor for something and it's like, oh, it's because of your depression history. It's not. It might not. Well, it might not be, right? So the question is, do you ask for that at the doctor and then have that follow you around forever? You talk it out with your therapist, or a psychologist or someone who can prescribe without it necessarily being tied to your physical medical record as well. You have to think through all those issues. But medicine definitely can help, even if it's just to get over the hump.
I definitely appreciate those answers. I'm in the same boat as you, yes and no. If it's going to help, and we've exhausted other options, then I'm one that'll be like, all right, let's give it a try and see what happens. If that also is not working, I'm also a fan of getting off of it right away as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Meds can save a life. Nothing to be ashamed of. Sometimes it's hormonal or chemical imbalance in the brain, especially in women that therapy can't solve, but also try therapy or a psychiatrist first. Meds are a last resort, in my opinion. Kind of like what I said, as far as, if after you've exhausted all options, then try it. And if it's not working, also coming off of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Agreed.
So I know I wanted to respect you guys' time. So the last two things, I need both of y'all to go ahead and promote your brand and your business. Tell people where they can find you, locate you, Madem, Yo Realty, and all that good stuff.
Terrell, you go first.
All right, I can be reached at 608-898-8968. Email address urealtygroup.com. That's YOO realtygroup.com. Either one of those work just fine.
And you can find them on my social media page. If you have questions, you can tag me and I'll tag him.
Check us out at Madem, particularly if you have a middle school or high school student or a college student interested in STEM. We focus on middle and high schoolers, but we often have college students who help us to run our programs in the summer, or sometimes our after school programs. They're helping us with it. And we also have, thanks to some of my team members, increasing focus on social emotional learning and whole person development as a part of our programs. Some of those programs are fun, focused on 3D printing or AI. Some of them are more rigorous and feel a little closer to being school, even though we try not to make them too much so. We have a summer program that is stipend based. So those students who get in are learning to identify and develop an independent project, to build some professional skills and earn a stipend along the way. And we have a high school internship program that are mostly juniors and seniors, and they are building experience with host companies who work with us to hire them in the summer and give them a paid experience where they're also developing a network and some employment skills. All of our staff and all of our instructors go through youth mental health, first aid training, youth protection, and a number of other types of training, mandated reporter, all of those things. So MAYDM is Madem. We believe that even if your young person is not looking for a career in tech or engineering, in the world we are in now, every job requires some experience with problem solving, technology, AI, and the like. And so it's worthwhile for them to develop those skills. Check us out, maydm.org. We also welcome volunteers. We don't always have something for volunteers to do, but when we do, we welcome the help and support. And as a nonprofit organization, of course, we always welcome donations as well to keep our business going.
That will serve as a tax write-off.
That is absolutely right. It does.
Don't forget that part.
Yes.
So I've got one last favorite question, but first got to make sure we chime in with Drew. He said, you can't put time on quality information. My guy, 100. Thank you, Drew, for chiming in and tapping in. But last question from me for you guys, because it's my favorite question. What would you tell your younger self?
Give me a second back to that. I want to just point out that Drew has absolutely been a part of our village for Marie and for Micah as a coach, as a support, and as a friend. So I know that he is asking questions today on how he can support his teams, but I just want to point out that he has also been that person for others. So he should leverage his village to help him out as well.
Yep, I wholeheartly agree. Drew has been a helpful person with both of mine. I have tried to reciprocate it with his children, especially Maya, who I finally talked into coming back to Madison College and playing, but I told her, hey, it's free. Come on and play. But no, Drew, man, anytime you want to lean on either one of us, I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say reach out. We have no problem with it. So yes, thank you for asking the question that you asked, because you're not the only one that has those questions.
What would you tell your younger self?
If you could go back into time to tell your younger self, what would it be?
I would tell my younger self to take your ass to school, to college. We're talking about education, right? I was like, go to college. Don't follow.
We're talking about education, but we talking about in life.
I was never a follower, but like in high school, I felt like I should have been on the business side. So we had Chicago Vocational High School. You got the business side, you got the trade side, and I feel like I should have been on the business side, which my father was really pushing me to go to. But I wanted to be with the basketball team and be with my friends over here in cabinet making, right? Which our coach was the teacher, right? So I would have went that way on the business side in high school, and probably would have learned my path sooner than later, and go to college after school, not lean into that's another thing. I don't know. Yeah, but definitely
things happen for a reason. But I'm pretty sure Christina putting them cabinet making skills to use.
Right.
I would tell myself it will be all right, and to slow down and prioritize family and self. I've always been very, very driven and focused on not being a statistic. And for instance, when I was young and pregnant and had my first child at 18, I felt like I had become that statistic. And then I felt, at least in part, and then I felt even more driven to overcome that. And sometimes that was at the expense of having time available for our oldest daughter, for sure. Even carried over a little bit into Marie, and then finally started to slow down. But I even have to catch myself now from doing that. I catch it now more often than not. Slow down and prioritize family, prioritize self. The other things will come, but if something happened to you, you're not there for your family physically or emotionally, that's who suffers, right? Because your job or your program, they will all carry on just fine without you, but the people closest to you, they feel those impacts forever. So that's what I would tell myself.
No, I definitely appreciate that, because that's real. And I just want to thank you guys for finally coming on. I've been trying to get y'all for about at least a year.
You see how our life is, right? You see, we in two separate places and dropping Marie off and managing Zora, and yeah, that's our life.
And that's the other beauty about y'all doing this with all the stuff y'all have going on. I think people need to see it too, because y'all still manage, y'all still balance, and y'all have each other. And you told him, you gave him the you were proactive by telling him don't wait on you to respond first all the time.
We did that offline. You ain't have to tell everybody that, Jamal.
They needed to know. Like, communication is key. I'm learning, so that I'm trying to get to know these married couples a little deeper, so I can, for my own study. I don't want to get in trouble later, but I definitely appreciate y'all taking the time, and definitely taking some of just the stuff that y'all have going on to just chime in and try and help others, and giving them some tangible strategies, proactive advocacy, knowing teachers, and everything else that we talked about. So again, I appreciate you guys. And if you guys need to get in contact with either one of them, If you don't remember their contact information, reach out to me and I can get you in contact with them. So again, thank you guys. Yes, go for it.
And I want to direct it to Drew too with his teams. Rosa Thompson of Black Girl Magic and I for Matum, we are co-sponsoring the Well Black Girls session at Black Women's Wellness Day on Saturday, September 27th. It is down to the wire, but we absolutely can squeeze in a few more girls to our session who are age 11 to 18. We are focusing on releasing and rest for them. So we'll have like a whole glamping set up for them. They can come in, they can make them some aromatherapy, tea or oils. So Sarah Branch will be doing that for us. Kristen Calloway has a flower making station for them to make their own bouquets. We got a chalkboard affirmations wall, and we also have some facials, free facials for them. DJing and dancing with Tiffany Sofa and DJ Gemini Gilly, all for them to come in and be around a bunch of other teens and preteens and rest. So sign them up to join us. Our registration through us, 11 to 18. For Black girls, huh? Dora wants to tell Daddy something. For Black girls.
Daddy, when are you going to be here?
Okay. I'll send Jamal, I'm going to send you the link, and then you can sign up.
Please.
It'll ask what organization. Just choose Matum on there, and one adult, one mom can join with the girl too. So Brianna, you can join with her when you sign up. So I'll send that link as soon as we get off.
I appreciate it. That's perfect. So again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, but I also want to thank our guests for just spending some time and sharing knowledge and dropping gems. And so until next month, you guys have a good one.
Thank you.